All right, after a week off, welcome back, everyone. We are starting in our new book, Second Kings, which I don't have a large introduction for you for this book because it is basically just a continuation of the last one. These two books were originally one book, and so it is a continuous story. We broke them apart at some point in time to kind of have a stopping point between the two, but they should be seen as one continuous story from the same set of authors that authored the last one. So this week we are picking up right after the ending of 2 weeks ago. And I thought we'd do a little bit of refresher just to keep things fresh in our minds. Last week we saw the death of Ahab, who was our naughty king who married the Phoenician princess. At the end of First Kings, we see that his son Ahaziah reigns over Israel. But I did not mean to hit that. I was looking up woodpeckers that we were talking about ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I know that when we were chatting before we hit record, there's a question about who Ahaziah is, because if you kept track of the list of kings that I sent you all, then you will remember that you will see that there are two King Ahaziahs. So this is what I meant to share. Here we go. So this is Larry, I believe this was your question. We have
Yeah.
Ahaziah here that ruled for 2 years. But if you scroll down a little bit, you will see an Ahaziah here as well. So these two, I believe, are different Ahaziahs. Um, I was looking up someone else. Because that's Amaziah, which I looked up, which is someone else. Let's see. Nope. Okay, here we go. I did get my reference right. So the Ahaziah on the left-hand side is the ruler of Judah, who can be found in 2 Kings chapter 8, verse 25. Ahaziah reigns over Judah. So they are two different people. They just happen to have the same name. The other thing that I was going to give us a quick refresher on, because a question came up once again. Ooh, let me make sure my pictures are correct. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Is just a reminder of the two kingdoms, since this is a map specifically of Elijah's travels with a bunch of different points in time. Judah, if you remember, is the southern king. This is the kingdom. This is the good, more honorable one. The kings tend to follow the religion more. They tend to remain monotheistic. They often still have hiccups, but the northern kingdom is Israel, and they are the naughty kingdom that doesn't follow the rules, that is worshiping other gods. And this is largely the area where Elijah and Elisha operate because they're from the north. They are, even when they're not in the story, they are doing things off screen. But we do have, I was trying to find it on here. Do we have the Ascension? I don't think we have the Ascension on here. Okay, so, but just a reminder, Israel is where we are operating in, but they are also the naughty kingdom.
Okay.
So any other questions or refreshers before we dive in today? All right, then let's get rolling. So we have 2 chapters with 2 big stories. This is just to keep us moving along so we can hit the end of this book by the end of the year. So the first story is about Ahaziah, the son of Ahab. We see that immediately after the death of Ahab, Moab is revolting. This is their long-standing enemy, so it would make sense that after the death of the king, the kingdom that they have been fighting with would see this as a great opportunity to attack, because the new king takes some time to set up. but we additionally hear that Ahaziah fell through the lattice, like the roofing lattice of part of the palace in Samaria, and is now bedridden. And he sends messengers to inquire of Zebub, Baal Zebub, the god of Ekron, to see if he will get better or not. So what do you all make of this introduction scene? What are we learning about Ahaziah and the situation that's going on in this at this point in time?
Well, I get a little bit hung up on that falling through the lattice, and in part because of the other story of the upper room where the king would go to relieve himself. Remember that story? I can't remember where it is right now. But anyway, so I'm kind of like, okay, fell through the lattice. Is that like, okay, the roof had a lattice and something over it, thatching over it, or something? Is he a fat man? I mean, I would just get the picture of him falling through the lattice and I kind of get stuck. Sorry.
He just fell off the roof, Gretchen.
So I had thoughts about this because there's a few things that could be. One way you can get an open air pavilion is if you have, I mean, I remember one of the houses I lived in had this where you have a wood structure which provides sun protection, but without the like heaviness of like clay or stone walls. And so the air can move through, but there's like a covering. But looking at the notes,
don't they call that
Oh, yeah. Pergola.
oh yeah.
Pergola.
Pergola. Okay.
And so I don't know if it's meaning that the notes in my Bible are implying that it is a woven structure that may be covering a window. And so it may be he fell out a window. Because
Okay,
that's
that's
another
scary.
way. Lattice is a way that once again that you would have sun protection but still have airflow. That's the implication that you would have walls, but then some walls are permeable to the air, so you get air movement.
It's often used, lattice is often used for privacy because it blocks the view and yet you get air flow through it. And it could have been a railing even or something like that. On a lower, it need not go the full height. But anyway, I think we're getting hung up on.
I mean, but we needed to understand like what is it that he fell through? He fell through some kind of thatching in the palace. But it also means he had a mighty fall because these are the upper rooms, which we're probably talking about maximum 3 stories. Like they didn't build very tall buildings in this part of the world. So 2 or 3 stories, but that's still enough to cause a fair amount of damage to a human body.
Okay.
So what do we think that his instinct is to call on the god of Ekron? Yeah, oh B, I put you on mute. Check your mute, B. Yeah.
I have to get back to my train of thought. Oh, this is that whole conflict about he's not asking for the Christian God, what we would call the Christian God, but this is a like like every once in a while in the story, the Old Testament, you get these pagan gods coming in. So the fact that he's asking, go ask this pagan god says, well, he's not doing the good thing, the real God that would be that the king would accept.
So even as Ahab's kind of a hard one to pin down of what Ahab's actual beliefs are, because there are times where Ahab has consulted with the God of Israel, and God's come out on his side, but he also allowed a lot of other religious practices. He catered to his wife's preferences. Um, and so, but this in one very clear way says that Ahab's son has no allegiance to the God of Israel. In not only that, like not only just like calling the God of Israel a second name, he's calling on some foreign god of a different place.
Mhm.
So a quick note about name. I don't know this for a fact. I also feel like the name Beelzebub might be a corruption of this name, but oddly enough, this name is already corrupted. So the direct translation of Baalzebub is the ball of the flies, or Lord of the Flies, is literally the translation of this one.
Oh.
But they think that this is like the Israelites like intentionally mispronouncing this to make it Lord of the Flies, like Lord of the Trash Heap, basically. Because Baal-zebul means Baal the Prince, a deity that would have been a local manifestation of the Canaanite storm god. So this is still Baal, the Canaanite storm god. This has an honorific on the end of it, but the Israelites changed instead of Zebub, which changed it from prince to flies. So Lord of the Flies here. I'm going to go call on the Lord of the Flies and see if the Lord of the Flies can help me.
Hmm, probably not.
Right. So when the king sends out messengers, instead of getting the worshippers of Baal or a Baal priest to come and talk, God talks to Elijah the Tishbite, our good buddy Elijah coming back. And God kind of like intercepts it and says, "Hey, the king of Samaria is asking for this." But notably, Elijah doesn't go himself. He sends a messenger to the king with the word of God. Why do you think Elijah would be more inclined to send a messenger rather than he himself appear? Think about what kind of relationship Elijah to this point has had with this royal family, because he's had some interactions with the dad, Ahab, but there's a likelihood that Ahaziah also knows of this guy, as we see. So why send a messenger?
Hmm.
Well, if you want to kill the messenger. No, I mean, he's obviously doesn't want to confront himself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, so
Well, the king sent out messengers, so why not give the messengers the message and let them go back?
fair enough. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you all made more sense of this or not, but oh, it says go meet the messengers. Never mind. I What's the facts a little bit. I was thinking for a moment that Elijah sent messengers. No, Elijah just encountered the messengers.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. And so they returned back fairly quickly to the king, to the point where the king's like, "Why are you back?" And they give him the message that a man came to meet us. Always a good sign when you have a task and someone comes to meet you without knowing your task with the answer to your tasks. So that's one of those good signs of like, oh, this is something divine. You have an answer to a question you did not yet ask.
Okay.
but they say, "Thus says the Lord." And mind you, when they say the Lord, this yes. This means that thus says the God of Israel. So he sent out asking for Baal, and the messengers come back saying, "Thus says the Israelite God." Because the Lord there is using God's first name. Because and God's response is it because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire of Baalzebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore you shall not leave this bed for which you have gone, but shall surely die. So what do you make of this proclamation of God? Like where's the cause and effect here?
But is it an interpretation that because the king didn't trust God of Israel, that that lack of faith or confidence in the word of that God is going to mean that he's going to die for his lack of faith, really, it seems to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
In a way, he's putting Beelzebub ahead of the Israelite God, instead of consulting his own God. He's looking for help from a foreign God. You're not supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like saying, "What am I, mincemeat?" It also has the undertone of the implication of, if you had asked me, I would have healed you. Or like things would have gone better. Yeah, Clay?
Yeah, you asked the wrong God, so you died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're not gonna leave this bed. And why is it bad at this point in time that the king can't leave his bed? Think about the first verse of this chapter. What's going on where the king would really like to leave his bed?
Preparations for war or like an attack.
Enemies are coming. The
Yeah.
king is dead. They know that the Moabites are going to retaliate because they think the kingdom is weak. He really doesn't want to be in bed right now. So what's hilarious is they give him this proclamation, and the king's response is, "What does this guy look like?"
Yeah.
And the response is, he's a really hairy guy with a belt tied around his waist, a leather belt tied around his waist. And the king goes, "Oh yeah, that's Elijah."
What my Bible says he wore a garment of hair. What is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You translated that as a hairy guy, but
Mm-hmm. So this is one where evidently the pronouns are a little bit hard to decipher in the Hebrew, so they don't know whether the hairiness applies to the man or to the garment. However, we do have a later interpretation of how Elijah looks. This is really the only description that we get. But if someone would join me flipping to the beginning, I believe it's in Matthew. We could probably also find it in Mark, but
We're talking John?
yeah, how is John the Baptist described? Do you all remember from your Bible lessons how John the Baptist is described?
Yeah, but he wore hairy clothes, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Do you remember what clothing he wore?
I could find my photo of him.
Yeah.
If anyone's looking, it will be in Matthew chapter 3. Open book exam.
He wore clothing of camel's hair
Right.
with a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. And that's part of that thing, they always talk about John the Baptist as being the Elijah. I mean, it's interesting that they have them kind of look-alikes.
Oh.
That is exactly what's going on, is John the Baptist there are some people who thought, we'll get to this in a little bit, that Elijah would return whole body intact from heaven. But what the Gospels do is they turn John the Baptist basically into like Elijah reincarnated. And so we get three descriptions that make John the Baptist look like Elijah. One, camel's skin is not a common garment. This is not typically what you make an outfit out of. And so the implication is John the Baptist looks hairy because he has camel's hair clothing on, like some kind of leather tunic. He has a leather belt around his waist, which we also get in the description for Elijah, but he's also eating locusts and wild honey, meaning he is like out on the range, which Elijah also was. So the readers of the Gospels would read this and go, oh, this is Elijah. And so we get that. So that's why the description of Elijah is important here, is because it comes back into play. That said, the original Hebrew is kind of ambiguous whether Elijah is wearing hairy clothes or is a hairy dude. He might also just be a hairy dude.
I was trying to find my picture from when I was in Rome where there's a statue of John the Baptist in one of the churches, and it's scary.
Really?
I mean, it is scary with that description. Just imagine it looking really, hair just all scraggly and I couldn't find it, and I tried to find it. I deleted it from my phone. It's been uploaded, but it was scary to see. So that's now how I'm picturing Elijah, then having seen that. It was in a church.
Yeah, these guys are like considered semi-feral. Like they're not living in houses. They are camping outside. They're wandering from place to place. They're probably kind of dirty. They're also not well groomed. That's part of the implication, is like he's hairy, which probably means like big wild beard. And the king goes, "Oh yeah, I know that hairy guy. That's Elijah."
Okay.
And so at this point, the king is like, okay, if Elijah's trying to talk to me, we might as well bring him in. So he sends out messengers to go and like bring Elijah to the palace to talk to him directly. And they go up, they find Elijah just sitting on a hill, which is the traditional place of like teachers to sit. If you think like way back in Judges, when they found Deborah, who they asked who was a judge over Israel, she was sitting on the top of the hill under a tree. So once again, we find Elijah in the spot of a teacher, of a prophet on the top of the hill, just sitting there. And the messengers from like lower down the hill, they're like, Elijah, the king wants you, come with us. And what do you make of Elijah's response of setting them on fire?
Fire. Yeah.
Why set 2 rounds of messengers on fire from heaven? Yeah, Clay?
Well, fire shows the power of God.
So this is once again a demonstration that like I'm talking about the real God here. Yeah, Larry?
Well, Elijah is eventually going to make his exit in a similar sort of fashion. Among chariots of fire, there's going to be a lot of fire coming as he leaves us.
So yeah, Gretchen?
Well, I wondered too if this harkens back to the story of all of the the prophets calling calling on God to light their fire, and they soak the pile of wood and everything, and then it bursts from the flame. I mean, they're kind of similar, like destructive acts of fire and power.
Right. So you all got the 3 points of fire in Elijah's story. One of like Elijah's powers is to be able to call on the fire of God. It's not thought to be like Elijah himself has like fireballs coming out of his hands. It's just Elijah has a direct line to God, and he's like, God, can you smite this one? And God smites them. So that fire is a big motif. Gary, did I see you want to jump in?
Well, I think he's just reasserting his identity of being a prophet back to the king's going to take this whole thing seriously. He keeps wiping people out. He sends to get them.
Right. So I think that's the other aspect of this one is kind of not just asserting his identity as a prophet because once again, how do we know a prophet is an accurate prophet from God? The prophet's words come true. That's how we know that the prophet is a good prophet. And so right now, this is working as kind of proof of prophet status here. I said this thing that will happen in the future, but here I said this thing and it immediately comes true. You know that I'm serious. You know that I'm a good prophet because my words are coming true. The proof is in the pudding. But Gary, the other thing that you made me think of is there is almost a power struggle between the king and Elijah going on. Who has the power to summon whom? So the king wants to summon the prophet at will. And Elijah is kind of saying, I'm not at your beck and call. And why is it important for Elisha to kind of assert a certain level of control and agency over the king who's summoning him?
He's asserting his connection to a higher power.
Say more about that. Why is it important that his connection is with God and not the king?
I don't know where to go with that. I guess just that the king is making an error and is fallible. And so he needs to humble himself. He needs to decide to abide by the one true God.
Yeah, this falling back to the pagan gods has been going on over and over. I think this makes a stronger point that, hey, just tired of this falling back. So I think he's just trying to get his attention to the seriousness of what's going on.
I would also argue that Elisha is trying to prove that he's not just going to do what the king says. The king could try to bully him and saying, talk to God on my behalf, get God to make me better. And Elisha's kind of showing right now that, like, I don't respond to you. I'm not accountable to you. I am not going to go to God on your behalf. I am going to you on God's behalf. It's an order of priority. In which Elisha is responding to an authority higher than God's, which means he's going to ignore what the king wants. So after 2 rounds of smiting the messenger, the third one comes humbly instead of demanding that, like, Elijah, you need to come. The king wants you. Come on, get in line. The third one is like, please see my life is valuable. Please, do not kill me. I respect you. I want to honor your position. Please don't kill me. And Elijah seems to respond well to the like, hi, I understand you're powerful and you're gonna kill me. Please don't. And so Elijah goes in front of the king and says the exact same thing that he has said before. And we don't get really a response from the king. So the king is not remorseful. The king does not repent. The king just evidently is silent about it and then dies. Yeah, Clay?
Is it important that it's the angel of the Lord who says to go down?
So once
Is
again,
that important, or is that just part of the narrative?
I would say it. Why? I'll put it back on you, Clay. Why would you think that is important then?
First of all, because it was there. Instead of Elijah saying, okay, I'll go down with you, it's the angel of the Lord that says to Elijah, go down with him, do not be afraid.
Yeah.
So
it shows that Elijah is still following orders, not making
Yes,
decisions
yes.
unto himself. He is still following God's will.
God's will.
And it
And
also
there's certainly something to be afraid of here. He's watched this man with his 50 men twice now all die. So
it also kind of feels like God is saying, okay, Elijah, I think we've made our point. I think we can go now. And it kind of like, because God in this story has like a little bit more distant, a little bit more omnipresent. We're getting a messenger of the Lord, angel and messenger, remember? Same word. So we're getting an angel messenger talking to Elijah, and it's like, okay, we've made our point. Let's go talk to the king. But the message doesn't change.
Right.
Right.
And then we get I hope you're starting to recognize the ending where it just is not more acts of the king summed up in this book that we don't have. Yeah, Gretchen, I saw a hand.
Well, it just occurred to me that we've got here the messengers being sent by Isaiah, and we've got the messengers of God. Really, the angel of the Lord, like you say, messenger, and so they're the same word, aren't they? And
Yes.
Oh.
So this is one where, once again, if we extrapolate out how people are envisioning God, now that we are thoroughly into the monarchy, can you start to see how they start envisioning God as a monarch? Where God has a heavenly court that God has consulted. God has advisors like a king has advisors. God has messengers like the king has messengers. No longer is this the God that's in the tent, sitting on the tabernacle, talking to Moses directly. The God is on the throne, sending messengers to talk to the prophets. So in some ways, there's the old adage that in the beginning, God created man in his own image, and then man returned it in kind. And created God in their own image. We tend to think of God using the ways that we understand. So what's the most powerful thing that these people can think of? It's a king. And so God starts to look kingly. And so we start to see that language here. And I think we've already been seeing this somewhat. So. But with that, I want to keep us moving because we have a very interesting story next, which is a very important story, which is what happens to Elijah after this. And here, once again, I'm going to try to be very intentional with my words of Elijah and Elisha. The SH is the younger one, the apprentice. And so Elijah picked up an apprentice, if you remember, when he went up the mountain and he was burnt out and he saw God on the mountain. Elijah came down the mountain, and then at the bottom of the mountain was Elisha, who was plowing his family's field. Elijah threw his mantle on it, and then Elisha was like, oh, let me go, like, say bye to my family. Elijah took his mantle back, which is like a strip of fabric. It is his sign of authority. But then Elisha saw that this was a very serious matter. They sacrificed the 12 oxen, and Elisha, theoretically, has been tagging along with Elijah ever since. And so now Elijah is pretty old, is the assumption. Like, he's no longer a spring chicken, which may be also why he didn't want to go to the king's beck and call. He's old, he's sitting down, he wants to relax. But now they're walking along from a few towns, and this story is not from Elijah's perspective, but Elisha, where Elisha knows that it is his master's time. And so they walk. We have this rhythm that is established where they're walking to a town. Elijah says, stay here, wait here, I'm going to go on ahead. And Elisha says, no, 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 I am with you to the end. I'm going to walk with you. And so they go to Bethel, and they go to Jericho, and they continue on to the Jordan River. And I'm curious what you think of this rhythm of, like, okay, apprentice, stay here. I'm going to continue on. And the apprentice going, no, 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 master. I am not leaving you. What do we think of this dynamic? What's going on here? Why include this?
Well, it emphasizes the loyalty between.
Yeah, loyalty is huge here.
And Elisha sort of knows what's going to happen. He knows Elijah's days are probably numbered, but exactly when, he probably doesn't know. So he's going to stick with him to the very end.
There may be a sense of actually being the caretaker.
Yeah.
Of Elijah, like, oh, look at him. He needs a little assistance as we do this. I mean, I like that theme about loyalty. But is there more to it, Chris? Is it just still a learning thing? Like Elisha is kind of sensing, like, I got to get the most out of this that I can, and I don't want to give up this mentor. I don't want to. It's like having a teacher who is so excellent. You hate to see them retire because you want to be around them, want to listen to what they have to say. They might have some insight that is going to improve the life of the world. Who knows?
Yeah, Clay?
And why would you want to be separated from your mentor when he does die and you have to hear about it from someone else while you're somewhere else? That just wouldn't make sense. It makes more sense to stay with him, at least to me. It's kind of like Tuesdays with Maury. He wanted to be with him as much as he could. Anyway.
Well, where else is Elisha going to go? I'm sorry, Jennifer.
No, but I was wondering, like, from Elijah's perspective, why is he wanting to peel himself away? I mean, is this sort of a kind of a test of Elisha's willingness to continue to follow? Does he feel like he needs to get rid of his earthly bonds to prepare for his next? I mean, why is Elijah constantly saying, you stay here?
I think he's just testing him.
Okay.
think there's a unwritten commitment that the two of them are one, or they've been with each other for so long, and I can see where the younger one would just feel that, look, I'm going to stay for the whole game. I'm going to play it all out.
Okay.
So why I refreshed us in the story of how these two came to be is because Elisha did not pass the first commitment test. If you remember, when Elijah came down, threw his mantle on him, and was like, "Okay, come with me," he was like, "Oh, wait, not ready yet, not ready yet." And and Elijah was like, "I'm not gonna take you unless you are fully committed." And that's when it like flips over, and he's like, "Okay, if that's what it takes, I'm fully in." And it almost there's a few ways you could I can hear this personally in my head, because one sounds like a test of like, oh youngin, don't worry, like you can stay here, I'll be back around, and that kind of testing spirit. I can also kind of hear it in my head, like almost like an inside joke that these two have, like they've been around, and it's like, oh youngin, you can stay here if you want. And Elisha's like, I'm with you to the end. You know that. I made my commitment. Come on, old geezer, keep going. But the third way is for those of you who have sat by the bedside of loved ones that are dying, there is also a sense of preemptive grief that is loaded into the story that does very much feel like Elisha is on death watch here. And I'm curious, for those of you who have been in that position where death doesn't always announce itself, but there's often a process and you kind of know when it's getting near. What has it been like to be by the bedside when you kind of know someone's close, but you don't quite know when and where?
Certainly a time of mixed emotions, especially if the person is suffering, or if you're really longing for them, but they're not there, but they are there.
There's a certain sense of powerlessness too. The feeling there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Except watch.
And that they're leaving in a way that you've never known before. There's, oh, I don't know exactly but almost like they don't need you anymore. They're going into a whole different realm that has to be separate for a while.
That's an interesting observation, with almost the desperation that Elisha seems to demonstrate here is, I know he's leaving me. I know he doesn't need me. I need him. There's a sense of, I need you, Elijah. I know you don't need me. Which, when they're very close to the end, two thoughts here. First, when they're along the way, these groups of prophets keep coming up to Elisha going, you know the end is near. And he's like, yes, I know, shut up. Be quiet, don't talk about it. And like, so he's very aware of what's going on. And people are reminding him. But he also doesn't seem to want to talk about it. He's kind of like, I'm going along. I'm well aware where we're going. I don't need your help. But on the other side, there's this desperation of like, I like the comparison with Tuesdays with Maury. It's like, I need you. I need you. I want your wisdom. And when they get to kind of the end of their journey, and Elijah turns around to him and says, like, what can I give you? It seems to be that acknowledgement that Elisha seems to need Elijah, more than Elijah needs Elisha at this point.
Mhm.
And so Elisha asks for a double serving of his spirit.
Mhm.
So what do you make of this? Because there's not much explanation given as to what
Yeah,
it means.
so what it is.
What do you all take it to mean? To ask for a double helping of Elijah's spirit.
Well, Elijah has been courageous.
Mm-hmm.
And to be with somebody who is that courageous would feel like, how am I going to get along without seeing your courage day by day?
In a way, too, he may be asking for the same force that he knows drove Elijah. Now he wants some of that force into his own life, so now he can carry on even though Elijah is no longer there.
Mm-hmm. It almost feels like the built-in question that, how am I to do this without you?
Mm-hmm.
I don't just need like the feeling that you're with me. I need double that.
Mm-hmm.
I need a double helping of your spirit. Like you are so much more than like what I'm hearing is like you are so much more than I think I am. I'm going to need all the help you can give me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just need your spirit, I need double that to carry
Mm-hmm.
on what you have started.
Mhm.
And yeah.
It may be an oversimplification, but it's like he's asking, make me more like you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so Elijah's response is, what you've asked is very difficult, but it can be done if you watch me go to heaven. Like there seems to be this understanding. I don't know where this comes from, but Elijah's just going to be taken up. And they both kind of know this. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is almost the reward in a way because Elijah kept being like, hey, hang back, hey, hang back. And Elisha's going, no, 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 I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. And like, okay, now unfortunately, you have to watch this all the way through. Which once again feels very Death Watch to me. That it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard at when you know that it could be any moment and you're just sitting there, except this one, instead of sitting by the bedside, just at the end of his sentence, a whirlwind of fire comes and the chariots from heaven come, scoop Elisha up and just cart him off to heaven. And the image that's evoked is as like Elijah is like flying through the air in a flaming chariot. The mantelpiece, the thing that he wore around his neck, which is a sign of his authority, kind of comes fluttering down. And Elijah picks it up. And that is the symbol of Elijah's spirit descending on Elisha.
Mhm.
So beautiful.
And so it is almost the acceptance that you did it.
Mhm.
Here is the answer to your request.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, while Elisha keeps watching, he's crying out, Father, Father, the chariots of Israel, it is a horseman. But when, like, he's just like describing the situation, but also like a sign of grief and whatnot. When he cannot see him anymore, he's down on the ground and he tears his clothes into two pieces, which in a world where clothing is probably the most expensive thing you own, that is a dramatic sign of grief.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But notably, one of the things that's important in this story is like they crossed the Jordan River, but on the other side is a group of prophets that also witnessed this whole thing.
Ah.
So it's not just the two of them. So just like Elisha did to cross the river, he like rolls up this piece of cloth. I love this image. He smacks the water. And the river parts. However, what they say is different. Elisha just rolled it up and smacked it. Elisha says, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elisha?" and like smacks the water. And I'm curious what you're hearing, what kind of emotions you're hearing here, because this story is, the next few stories are loaded with emotion here. Because to me, that phrase sounds kind of angry and grief that is anger.
I agree.
But he crosses over. Oh, yeah, Gretchen, did you have something? Oh,
Well, I was just thinking about, where's your God now? Okay, where's God now? I thought you were all wrapped up together. Now look, he's gone. God is gone. You're gone. It's all over. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Probably be afraid
So,
of.
But God still responds, interestingly.
The water parts.
And so the prophets that were in Jericho, they're standing at a distance, and they declare the spirit of Elijah is now on Elisha. So there is witnesses that the power has transferred. We have a successor, maybe not a biologic successor, but there is a successor to the power. And they pledge 50 strong men. Wherever you go, we're going to be with you. We're going to be kind of your enforcement squad. We saw this happen. We'll be right beside you. But there's this whole little argument of, hey, we have 50 men. Let's go find him. Maybe God just like zoomed him up and plopped him somewhere else. We've seen this in stories where it indicates this was something that happened with Elijah. Occasionally, we don't have stories of it, but there's like references to like, we don't know if God's just gonna like zoom you up and plop you somewhere. And so they're like, hey, maybe God just like zoomed him up and plopped him somewhere. Let's go look. But after 3 days, they can't find him. And Elisha's like, yeah, I told you, don't go. He's gone. But this is.
Did you notice that they have 50 strong men too? Just to repeat the story a little bit, keep the number that came from the king.
Yes.
So this is what creates the Jewish tradition of leave a chair open for Elijah. Is that the idea is that Elijah, this comes like in the exile. This is not in the story here. It's just a tradition that Elijah will return when the Messiah, the anointed, the King of Israel returns. And so at Passover dinners, they say, leave a chair open for Elijah. Because Elijah never technically died.
No, right.
He's technically just like up in heaven with God, which is why it makes sense that John the Baptist is formulated after Elijah, because Elijah was supposed to herald the Messiah. So you see the through line here, but today the Jewish community, it is kind of a tradition to still leave a chair open for Elijah. He is not the first. There's exactly 2 people who are said to have not died in the Bible. He is one of them because he gets zoomed up to heaven. Anyone have a trivia question if you remember who the other person who doesn't die is? Anyone? It's okay if you don't. This is a really weird trivia question. I believe it's Methuselah. I'm not positive.
It starts with an M.
Methuselah just kind of wanders away and is never seen again. But that's in the time of Noah. Like he just kind of disappears. Yeah, Clay?
My book says Enoch.
Oh, is it Enoch? Okay.
Oh,
I knew it was in here. I knew I had seen it in the notes, and then I couldn't find it. And I knew that it
Okay.
wasn't that long name. There's a lot.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
Methuselah
it
just lived
says
to a very old age. That's what it
oh,
was. But okay,
it's
Enoch is the one who
Genesis.
wanders away. Yeah. It's still in the time of Noah, like around that area in Genesis. So Enoch wanders away. There becomes books that are dedicated to Enoch. They're the Enochian books, and they're very mystical and once again heavenly because Enoch never died. Anyways. So we have exactly 1 minute left of our official time, and we have two short stories that I just wanted to touch on, particularly because the second one's just kind of funny. Where once again, how do you know if a prophet is a true prophet? The prophet's words come true. So this is the first demonstration that Elisha has Elijah's powers. He walks into a city. The city says, "Our well is no good." And so he does a little ritual, and the water is purified, and there's no sickness or miscarriages. So this is a proof that truly Elisha has Elijah's powers. But the other thing is, there should be another person who this sounds very much like. Who else has cleaned dirty water before? If you all remember, way back a bunch of books ago, who else provides water? I'll give you a hint. He didn't get to enter the promised land.
Moses?
Moses. There is one time he smacks a rock and water is clean. There's another time where they come upon a well and they call it Mara, which means bitter. And so he does a ritual and makes Mara sweet, drinkable water. And then there's the time where he smacks the rock 2 times instead of one to provide water in the desert. Moses is one who provides water and makes bitter water clean. So Elisha not only has Elijah's magical powers, he has Moses's, which means this is our second prophet like Moses that we get in text, which is showing that the spirit has gone from one to the other. It's another proof. But then we get one of the sillier stories in the Bible where he is continuing wandering around town, and there's a bunch of young boys, which think about like preteen to teenager. That's the age frame we're talking. We're not talking like little boys, elementary school. We're talking like teenagers. Bethel is one of the sites of the pagan shrines. So there is a shrine there, but it is not to the Israelite God. And so we don't fully know what's going on here, but he walks into town and they're like, bald head, go away, bald head. And he curses them, and 2 she-bears come down from the mountain and kill 42 boys. What do you all make of this story? Yeah, Clay?
Oh, first I was just going to go back to the double share and say, well, then that is Elijah plus Moses. Okay. And I see
That's a
these
great
as
way to
younger.
think about it. All right.
When you said it, that just brought that up. And also that How to Read the Bible book says that he is Moses-like, and then says all those different things he does. But I'm seeing these as, it says small boys. I'm seeing these like 9-year-olds, not teenagers, but younger kids. And that's just my own observation. It means really nothing here.
This is one where I remember reading it somewhere that it's translated weird.
Oh,
but I believe the Hebrew implies not like 9-year-olds.
Okay, so it's supposed to be, like you said, like maybe 14-year-olds or something. Okay.
Boys who should know better.
Yes, but boys who, when you get mob rule, will do that.
Exactly.
But you have to slaughter 42. Life is cheap.
It's harsh.
Yeah, Gretchen?
I think it's kind of funny in these first 2 chapters that you've got descriptions of people's appearance. Here now we know how do you dress up on Halloween for Elisha? You make your head bald. there you go. And
So if you would spare me 2 minutes, I have a hilarious story about this, which is I had such a giggle when it happened to me. So this is a personal anecdote. When I was in India studying abroad there, I was in a small village. I was not in Delhi or anything. I was in a very rural area. And for reasons that I won't go into, I had a buzzed head there. So like I had no hair. And I was walking through the neighborhood with a friend of mine. I was going to go eat dinner at his house, and a bunch of little kids were like calling out to me. And I was like, hey, what are they saying? And he was like, oh, they're calling you bald head. They want to know why you're bald. And I was like, I'm not calling out cheaters. Because I knew this story, and I was like, this is weird.
That's great.
And would your friend have known the reference?
Not at all. He was
Not
Hindu.
at all.
Not
Only
not
you knew the
even
reference.
in the
Okay.
slightest.
Did you curse them?
I did
Yes.
not. They were adorable. I mean, the ones that were talking to me were like 5, and I'm like, I was in no danger. I assure you.
Hey.
But my last comment here is, to me, this is an overreaction, which once again makes me think that Elisha is still grieving. He's still kind of like figuring himself out. That's my own personal theory. It's not based on the text, but it just feels like one of those things of like, wow, really? Was that necessary? Yeah, Gary?
Well, before I was ever introduced to you, Chris, I would never have looked at a reading this way, and I mean that in a positive way.
Okay.
But I think that this could just be part of a marketing campaign to build up the power and image.
Oh,
I think there's a good likelihood of that, that this is kind of just a legend that helped people take the young guy or the next guy seriously. Like
Okay.
how
Hyperbole.
yeah. So, all right, we are well past our time. Any final thoughts for today? All right. Well, thank you all. We are well on our way to the end of this one as well. But next week, once again, we are going to be looking at the works of Elisha. Clay, you've kind of already done your homework, or you did your homework slightly. If you all have been keeping track of this one, there is a list of things in this book that is the resemblance of Elijah, Elisha, and Moses. And so next week, we are going to talk specifically about why, like how these figures are similar. So even if you don't read the How to Read the Bible book, I would say still keep your eyes open for things that make you think of Moses, because that'll be a heavy share of our discussion.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. But with that, shall I close us in prayer? All right, let us pray. Gracious and loving God, there are times where we truly feel like we can't do things without you. Sometimes we feel strong and capable, and other times we feel like we don't have the tools, we don't have the knowledge, and we don't know what direction to go. And in those times, God, can you give us a double helping of your Spirit, that you may guide us in the ways of your love and your acceptance and your grace, that when we don't know which way to go, may we default on your words and the direction you point us, so that we may be your representatives in the world, so people might look upon our lives and know that you are present in the world. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That was great. Once again, I learned a lot. Thank you.